Okay, so in this last video, I'm gonna go over with you radicals and exponents. So example one, just simplify the radical, so square root of 120. You just need to get that into factors of. You just want to split up 120 into all prime numbers. So one easy way to start is choose a prime number. So we could divide 120 by 2. This would be 2 and 60. Oops. And then 2 is prime. So we can leave that one alone, but 60 is not prime. We could split up 60 as 2 times 30. Well, 2 is prime, but 30 is not. We can split up 30 as 2 times 15. Again, 2 is prime, but 15 is not prime. So split up 15, we have to use 3 and 5. So the way that we rewrite this is we can pull out pairs of prime factors. So I have a pair of 2's, and that's really all I have. I don't have another pair of 2's. I don't have a pair of 3's, and I don't have a pair of 5's. So I'm going to rewrite this. I'm going to put 1, 2 on the outside. And the square root, what's left over is 2 times 3 times 5. 2 times 3 times 5, which is 2 square root of 30. So you just leave your answer like that. Let's go ahead and do one like number 5. So I have 2 square root of 8 times 5 square root of 2. So when you're multiplying, you're going to multiply what's outside together. So we'll multiply the 2 and the 5 together. So 2 times 5 is 10. And then we'll multiply the insides together. So 8 times 2. So we multiply 2 and 5 together, and then we multiply the 8 and the 2 together. So notice what was outside stays outside. What was inside stays inside. So 10 square root of 8 times 2 is 16. Well, wait, we know the square root of 16, right? It's 4. This is 10 times 4, which is 40. Okay. Next, let's go ahead and do one from the group 7 through 8, or sorry, 7 through 9. Let's just go ahead and do, let's go ahead and do 7. So for 7, you're just going to take and you're going to distribute the square root of 5 to everything that's here. But keep in mind, what's outside needs to stay what's with the outside, and what's inside needs to go inside. So let's go ahead and put a 1 on the outside of the square root of 5, just so that we remember that it's there. So when I distribute this through, well, what's outside is the 1. So I'm going to multiply the 1 and the 3 together. And then I'm going to multiply the insides together. 5 times 5. And so now I've distributed that. Then I'm going to do it one more time with this next term. Notice it's subtracting. So I'm multiplying 1 square root of 5 times negative 7 square root of 3. So I'm going to put negative. And this will be 1 times 7. And then 5 times 3 is 15. So square root of 15. And I'll just show it as 5 times 3 first. So 1 times 3 is 3. 5 times 5 is 25. So this is 3 square root of 5 minus 7 times 1 is 7. And 5 times 3 is square root of 15. Square root of 25 is 5. So this is 3 times 5 minus 7. Can't reduce the square root of 15. So we'll just leave it as square root of 15. 3 times 5 is 15, no? So 15 minus 7 square root of 15 is the fully simplified version of this expression. And then 10 through 12 kind of work just like 1 through 9. So those should be okay for you to do. Let's go ahead and do 13 through let's go ahead and do one like 13 through 15. Let's just go ahead and do 14. So for 14, 6 minus the square root of 8 times 6 plus the square root of 8. So this is a FOIL method one. So you could either do FOIL or you could either show the distribution twice. I'm just going to do FOIL. So 6 times 6 is 6. And then 6 times the positive square root of 8. So I'm going to write plus 6 square root of 8. So just keep in mind when you distribute like this, 6 is on the outside, so it needs to stay on the outside. 8 is on the inside, so it's got to stay on the inside of the square root. Next, distribute negative square root of 8 times 6. So it's going to be negative 6 square root of 8. The 6 stays on the outside, the 8 stays on the inside, and the negative stays out front as well because it's on the outside of the square root. And then lastly, negative square root of 8 times positive square root of 8. So I'm going to write negative on the outside, square root of 8 times 8. So something nice happens here. These two terms go away. So 6, this is now minus 8 times 8 is 64. The square root of 64 is 8. So 6 minus 8, which is negative 2. If you wanted to, you could have noticed here that I had 2 8s, so you could have went right from here to here if you wanted to. Additionally, if you wanted to, you could have simplified the square root of 8 first, because that's 4 times 2. So it's really could have said 6 minus 2 square root of 2 times 6 plus 2 square root of 2. But there's nothing wrong with doing it the way that I have here. Okay. So he'll flip. I'll do a couple of the ones on the back with you as well. Okay, so on the back, number 16. Let's go ahead and do that one together. So this has number and a letter with it. So square root of 144 e cubed. So we can sort of handle the numbers and the letters separately. The square root of 144, well, 144 is a perfect square. That's just 12 times 12. Okay, so we could pull that out right away. Say this is 12 times the square root of e cubed. So now you're just left with e to the power of 3. But that's not fully simplified because I can split up e to the power of 3 as 12 times the square root of e squared times e to the first. So remember, your properties of exponents say that if I multiply the base together, then you can add the exponents. So when I add, I get 2 plus 1. It gets me back to my 3. So what you're going to do next is you're going to divide your even power by 2. So 2 divided by 2 is 1. So we can pull out the even power here on e. So this is 12 to the e to the 2 divided by 2 square root of e. Well, 2 divided by 2 is just 1. So this is 12e square root of e. If you want to show the 1, you can. There's nothing wrong with showing the 1. Well, let me do another one with you. Let me go ahead and do let's do 20. So for 20, 92, we can start by splitting that up. We want 92 to be, we want to split up into prime factorization. So we can start off by dividing it by 2 because it's even. So 2 times 46. Well, 46 is also even. So we could divide that by 2. And we get 23. And then 23 is prime. So we can pull out a 2 and we'll be left with 23 underneath the square root. So we can say this is 2 square root of 23, but then you have a to the 6, b to the 15. So 6 is even, so that's good. That's divisible by 2, but 15 is not divisible by 2. It's odd. So I need to, if I lower it by 1, do this up here. If I lower the power on b by 1, I got b to the 14, which, hey, that's divisible by 2. But then I need to account for the 1 that I took away. So this will be b, we'll write b to the 1. So notice when I add these two together, I get back b to the 15 by properties of exponents. So now, since I've already taken care of my number out front, I just got to divide each of these by 2 and move them outside. So 6 divided by 2 is 3. So this is 2a cubed. 14 divided by 2 is 7. So this is b to the 7. And then what's left inside? So I got rid of those two. And what's left inside is just the square root of 23b. I have 2a cubed b to the 7th times the square root of 23b. Let's do another one of these. Let's do 22. So 22 says the square root of y to the 10 z cubed over q to the 8. Well, y to the 10 is even, so we're good there. So we can leave that one alone. So I'm going to leave that as y to the 10. Z3 is not even, so we're going to rewrite 3. In order to rewrite 3 as an even number, we're just going to subtract 1. So 3 minus 1 gives me z squared, but I got to account for that 1 that I got rid of. So I need to write another z and put it to the power of 1. Now I'm going to divide this all by q, and 8 is an even number, so I'm going to leave it as q to the 8. Lastly, I'm just going to divide each of my even powers by 2 and put those on the outside of the square root. So y to the 10, 10 divided by 2 is 5, so this is going to be y to the 5th. Z to the 2, 2 divided by 2 is 1, so this is z to the 1, and I'll go ahead and show the 1 for you. Divided by 8 divided by 2, so this is going to be q, 8 divided by 2 is 4. And then what's left inside the square root? So I got rid of the y to the 10. I got rid of z squared. I got rid of q to the 8. So those all came outside. Notice I kept q down in the denominator when I wrote it outside because it was on the denominator inside. Z to the first was on the top, so I'm going to leave it on the top. I'm going to write z to the first. And that's the simplified version of that one. 25 through 30. Those want you to rationalize the denominators. So we got to get rid of the square roots that are down there. So let me just go ahead and do one of these with you. Let's go ahead and do 26. So for 26, 1 over 5 square root of 2. So your goal is to get rid of the square root in the denominator. So in 26, the square root is square root of 2. So what we're going to do is a process called rationalizing the denominator. I'm going to multiply by the square root of 2 divided by itself. So square root of 2 over square root of 2. You don't have to include the 5 on that, just because all we're interested in getting rid of is the square root that's down. So we can multiply by square root of 2 over square root of 2. So what that does for me is on the top, I get 1 times square root of 2, which is square root of 2. And on the bottom, I got 5 square root of 2 times square root of 2. Well, we can simplify this. Square root of 2 over 5 square root of 4. Because 2 times 2 gets me 4. And they're both underneath the square root. Well, the square root of 4 is 2. So square root of 2 over 5 times 2. Well, 5 times 2 is 10. So it's the square root of 2 over 10. That's your answer for that. Let's go ahead and do one more. Let's go ahead and do 28 together. So 25, 27, and 29 are all pretty similar to what I did in 26. You're just going to multiply each of those by the square root of the denominator by itself. So for 25, you'd be multiplying by square root of 5 over square root of 5. But 28 is a little different. 28, you need to multiply by the conjugate of what's in the denominator. Sorry, 28. So 28 and 30. For both of those, you're going to multiply by the conjugate of the denominator. So I'll get both of those set up for you. So for this one, the conjugate of 3 minus square root of 12 is 3 plus square root of 12. And then the conjugate divided by itself, 3 plus square root of 12. For 30, I'll jump over to that one real quick. The conjugate of 2 plus square root of 10, remember you just take the opposite of the sign that's there. So the conjugate of 2 plus square root of 10 is 2 minus square root of 10. Multiply by that divided by itself. But I'll finish through 28, and then you can do 30 on your own. So for 28, let's go ahead and distribute the 7. So 7 times 3 is 21, and 7 square root of 12. And on the bottom, we can sort of think of this as like FOIL. I have 3 minus square root of 12 times 3 plus square root of 12 on the bottom. So I'm just going to FOIL this out. So 3 times 3 is 9. So on the bottom, I'm going to have 9. 3 times positive square root of 12 is 3 square root of 12. 3 times negative square root of 12 is negative 3 square root of 12. And negative square root of 12 times positive square root of 12 is negative square root of 12 times 12. And then on the top, 21 plus 7 root 12. So I'm going to simplify this way. So on top, 21 plus 7 square root of 12 over, notice, positive 3 square root of 12, negative 3 square root of 12. Those cancel. So this is 9 minus, and then 12 times 12 is 144. And then the square root of 144 is just 12. One last thing before we call this fully done. Let's say this is 21 plus 7 square root of 12 over 3, negative 3. The one last thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to reduce 12. So off to the side here, I'm just going to reduce square root of 12. So 12 is going to be 2 times 6, and then 6 is 2 times 3. So notice I have a pair of 2's that I can pull out. Now I can go ahead and simplify this. So this is going to be, I'm going to take the negative from the bottom and write it out front. Negative 21 plus 7 square root of 2, 7 times 2 square root of 3. And then on the bottom, I have 3. And then just cleaning this up a little bit more, 7 times 2 is 14. So negative 21 plus 14, square root of 3 over 3. And that will be my answer for that one. So number 30 is going to work out pretty similar to how we did number 28. So again, like always, if you have questions, please feel free to send me a message in Google Classroom, Remind, or email me.